up, everybody? My name is Dell. This is Dell on Movies. Thanks for hanging out with me. If you've been here before, thanks for coming back and hanging out with me some more. I appreciate it when you guys do that. Your time is precious. Thanks for spending a little bit with me. And today, what I'm going to talk about is a recent pickup. Well, it's not a recent pickup, a pickup I made last year actually from the Criterion sale last summer. I did get some new titles this summer, but then realized, you know what, there's a bunch that I hadn't watched. So I wanted to go ahead and get into some of those at least. And the one I dug into was this one, Melvin Van Peebles' Essential Films. It is a collection of his movies that he directed. If you don't know who he is, he's very important in black cinema history. He directed one of the movies here that's a lot of people think is the first black exploitation movie, and we'll talk a little bit more about if it is or if it's not the very first black exploitation movie. There's four movies that he directed here that I watched. There's also a fifth movie in the set that he did not direct. I've also seen, and I'll talk about all those in just a minute. So let's just go ahead and dive right into it. If you take a look at the set, there's a bunch of movies here. Like I said, there's this booklet that starts the Melvin Van Peebles Essential Films booklet. It's a great booklet. Got all these really thick booklet. If you're a Criterion person, you know they do that with a lot of their sets. So very happy to have that. The next movie, the first movie we're going to talk about, is his first directorial movie, his debut, and that is The Story of a 3-Day Pass. So in this movie, we see this gentleman right here. He is in the military, and he is about to start his new assignment. But before he does, they give him 3 days off, give him a weekend off. So that's the titular 3-day pass. And being that it's the 60s and he's in Paris already, he's in France already. He's one of the few black soldiers there, the only one that we see, I believe. And his commanding officer tells him, "Hey, go out, have a good time, but don't have too good a time. Don't embarrass me. Don't do anything crazy." And that's where the movie kicks off at. And again, remember the time in the 60s, and he eventually, of course, meets this young lady right here. As you can see, he's black, she's white, and it becomes this whole big thing. The movie really kind of chronicles their relationship over those 3 days. They first meet on that first day he's off, and then the film progresses from there and shows what happens. It's really inspired by French New Wave cinema, which Melvin Van Peebles lived in France for a while. And so there's a lot of scenes where there's not much dialogue, if any dialogue at all, but we just watch our main character doing stuff. And the great thing about this movie is that he manages to do that and still tell a compelling story. We get to see what's going through, what do you think is going through his mind. You get an idea of it, and you get to see how things are happening. And then by the end of the movie, there's a pretty I wouldn't say a twist, because I kind of saw what was going to happen coming, but it's definitely some poignant information is being passed along to the viewer. So really good movie, a little unconventional in style, and you can see some of the things that later filmmakers will pick up and do that he got from movies like Breathless and 400 Blows, or other French New Wave movies. So a really good one. The Story of a 3-Day Pass was a good debut by Melvin Van Peebles. The next movie is called Watermelon Man. So Watermelon Man is the movie is about this guy here. His name is Jeff, and if you're looking pretty carefully at the picture, you can see that they look like the same guys because they are the same guy. So here's what happens in the movie. Right at the beginning, Jeff is actually a white guy. And let me go ahead and open up. He's played by Godfrey Cambridge. Godfrey Cambridge was a comedian back in the day, pretty popular guy. And this is what he normally looks like. And then I'll turn it upside down. This is what he looks like at the beginning of the movie. So yeah, he's in full-on whiteface as a white person, upper middle class management kind of guy, pretty successful. He's got a wife, got 2 kids. Not perfect. I mean, you can see this is his wife here, and at the very beginning of the movie, while he is the white guy, their marriage is already having some issues. There's not much passion in it. She tells him that pretty much verbatim. There's no passion in our marriage, and he watch him then go through a day of his routines. You know, he exercises, goes to work, and does all those things that he's accustomed to doing, and then the next morning when he wakes up as a black man. And of course, again, this is 1970 when this was made, so all hell broke loose after that. He skipped a day at work because he just didn't know how to explain it. He finally went to work. I think the next day might have been 2 days, and lets the cat out of the bag. And then we see how the world reacts to him differently now that he's black and no longer white. Um, if you're a little bit older like me, if you're about my age, you probably grew up watching Eddie Murphy on Saturday Night Live. He did a skit where he once actually pretended to be white to see how the world treated him. Well, this movie is a white man actually becoming black to see how the world treats him, and a lot of different things, a lot of things come to light for this guy. He realizes uh, one, what kind of privileges he had, and realizes how he's being treated now and why it's different. And we watch his whole mindset change. We watch what happens at work with his job. We watch what happens with the dynamics with his wife, and it's a really good movie. So for me, this one is Watermelon Man is Melvin Van Peebles' best movie overall. It's his most realized movie. So I highly recommend Watermelon Man. Now, the next movie I'm going to talk about is his best known movie. It's the movie that I said at the beginning might be the first blaxploitation film ever, and that movie is Sweet Sweetback's Badass Song. So for this movie, the other movie that people say might be the first blaxploitation movie is Shaft, starring Richard Roundtree. They came out a few months apart, and so depending on who you talk to, some people will say Shaft, some people will say Sweet Sweetback's Badass Song. I generally tend to say Shaft, and that's no slight against this film or that one. It's just when you look at the financial backing behind the movie is actually truer to the term blaxploitation. Whereas this one was all financed out of pocket pretty much, among other things. We'll get into that in a minute, but it was pretty much financed by Melvin Van Peebles. He did it as best he could, any way he could, maxing out credit cards, cash, borrowing money. So he did that and put it together, and it became a hit, became a moneymaker. So this became his most well-known movie, and the story is about the main character Sweetback, and this is the first time also for Melvin Van Peebles that he stars in one of his own movies. He's got a cameo in Watermelon Man. He's got a cameo in Watermelon Man. I'm not sure about in 3A Pass. I don't think so. But this time he's the main character, and the name is is interesting. It's funny. Sweetback is his actual name, and Sweetback really just means that he's really good at sex. That's what it means. And he's a sex worker. He works in this house that's kind of like a brothel, but he also does live sex shows. So people gather around and basically watch him do it with whatever woman is working with him that night. And obviously, this is an illegal operation. Guy owns the house. He's kind of watching over things from another room, but he's talking to two white police officers, and the police officers, they know what's going on. So in order to kind of leave him alone, they tell him, hey, look, give us somebody, give me one guy, and we'll run him downtown for a few hours. We'll get him back, but we got to have somebody to make it look like, we're not just letting things slide. We're actually working at this. So, because they're already, getting kickbacks from this guy. So after some pressing, the boss man decides, okay, you know what? I'll give him Sweetback. Sweetback goes with the two officers, and they handcuff him, put him in the back of a squad car. While they're on their way to the police station, they get a call. They make another stop, and they pick up another young black man. And this one they decide to treat a little bit differently because he's not involved with anything Sweetback's got going on. There's no kickbacks for this guy. They kind of take him off into a secluded area and they start beating him up. Sweetback intervenes. They get away from the cops. They might kill the cop. He might kill the cops. I won't let it out of the bag whether he did or he didn't. But long story short is, from that point on in the movie, and this is pretty early, all pretty quick, the cops are now chasing Sweetback for the rest of the movie. So it's pretty much a chase movie. He's running around Los Angeles trying to hide and find places to get away and encountering different groups of people and getting into some strange hijinks. And the cops are, chasing after him. They're stopping at all his old haunts or where they think he might be and trying to catch up to him. And so the plot is pretty thin. Right after he starts running from the cops, there's really not much of the story. It's basically watching Sweetback go through all these things, and a lot of it is filler because there's not much to the story. But Van Peebles films it in a way that is still compelling to watch. So it never really drags for you. It doesn't really get boring, and it's an hour and a half movie. But so he keeps it rolling like that. Keeps it rolling pretty well. And then when we get to the end of the movie, it's pretty clear that this is one of the first instances of a black main character sticking it to the man, so to speak. And that's helped it become this hit, a cult classic after all these years. And there is, however, one major problem with this movie. So the beginning of the movie, we meet Sweetback as a young man, as a really young man. We meet him as 10 or 12 years old, somewhere in that range. And he's played by Melvin Van Peebles' real-life son, Mario. If you're not familiar with Mario, he directed The Western Posse. He directed New Jack City. He's directed a number of movies. He starred in a number of movies and TV shows he's been on. So he's been around. Even if you don't know him by name, you've seen his face probably. And in this case, though, he plays his dad, and not for the last time in his life, but he plays his dad. And again, he's only 10 or 12 years old. Plays the same character his dad does, I should say. He's only 10 or 12 years old in real life, and he's living in this same house that Sweetback worked in. I believe it's the same house where he grew up the whole entire time. So it's a brothel, and there are grown women there working all the time. And the movie starts there. And the big problem is there's the scene where a woman calls Sweetback into a bedroom and shuts the door. She calls him into the bedroom, and we, as in with the camera, goes in the room with her. And then there is a pretty graphic sex scene that happens right at the beginning of the movie. So yeah, he's in real life only 10 or 12 years old. I can't remember how old exactly. And there's this grown woman who's the actress. So it's a scene that I felt should not have ever been filmed, but it is there, and to make it more uncomfortable, it goes on for a while. I mean, there's some things happening, and then we get the opening credits. So this is really right away. This is before the opening credits start, and then it runs a lot, mostly through the opening credits, and then after the opening credits, and we finally transition out of that. So on the whole, it's a good movie. It's important for its place in black cinema. But if you are going to watch this movie, I didn't want to spoil the movie, so I didn't really tell you too much about what happens later on. But I did want you to be aware of that scene, just in case you popped it in. So I kind of wanted you to be ready for it if you're going to watch it. If you want to fast forward through it, you can do that. But it is there, so I just wanted you to be aware of it. Now, there's another movie in this same set, this same little edition of Sweetback's Badass Song, and that is a movie that is called Badass, and there is Badass right there. Let's get it where you can actually read it. Yeah, there's Badass right there. And this time, this is Mario as an adult. This is Mario Van Peebles as an adult in the movie Badass, which is about the making of Sweetback's Badass Song. So he plays his dad trying to get the movie made. Reminiscent of kind of like My Name is Dolomite, the Eddie Murphy movie, or Ed Wood, or any of those movies. And it goes under the radar, but it's a really good movie. And we get to see just how he got the funds and how he worked around his thin plot and came up with the ideas to do some of these things, and plus his relationship woes at the time. So it's a really good movie. It's not one directed by Melvin Van Peebles. It's directed by Mario, but it does definitely fit the set given the topic of the movie. That takes us to the last movie, in the set, and this one is Don't Play As Cheap. So, Don't Play As Cheap is a movie where we meet this group of people, and they're all living. They're not all living. They're all at this apartment, and in this apartment, you can see all of these people here, and they're having a get together, and they're just all talking and having a good time, and a lot of things are happening all at once. And what we find out eventually is that a couple of these characters are demons working for the actual devil and trying to cause some chaos and break things apart. And the movie, for me, this was the weakest of all of the Melvin Van Peebles movies, the weakest movie in the set. And the problems are, I'm keeping this picture up on purpose, even though this is the front. A lot of the movie looks like this. I mean, it's basically a stage play that he just pointed the camera at, but he's got everybody in this tight, confined space for most of the movie. So every now and again, characters will, they'll step out and move to another room, and the camera will go with them there, but they'll always come back to this room. And all the characters are in there. They're all talking all the time. It seems like they're all on top of each other. There's a way to do that cinematically and make it work, but I don't think he accomplished that here. It just feels crowded, and it's too hard to pay attention to one thing because there's so much happening. And on top of all of that, it's also a musical. So every now and again, someone will just break out into song, which is also a little bit odd. I think when the film ends, I think the big problem is that with every character here, they have their little thing going on in life, and they kind of talk about it here and there. But the problem is that the director, Van Peebles, and whoever wrote the script, I'm not sure if he wrote the script or not. They're trying to comment on so many things that they really don't say much of anything at all. And then, so whatever point they were trying to make gets lost in all the chaos. And this one just didn't really appeal to me. So this, by far, for me, is the weakest movie in the set. There are some big names in the set, in this movie. If you can see, all the way over here to on this side right here, that's Esther Roll. She went on to play the mom in Good Times a few years later. And right there in the middle is Mabel King. She went on to play the mom in What's Happening. That's also a classic sitcom from the 70s, inspired by another movie that I'll probably talk about at some point during one of those recommendation videos. But in this case, they actually have the best parts in the movie, so it's no surprise that they went on to be stars. And Mabel King in particular, she has one really shining moment in the movie where she actually, it's a song she sings, but it actually stops the movie, grinds it to a halt, but it's in a good way. Usually things get ground to a halt, you mean it in a bad way, but in this way, it's a good way, because you needed that time to breathe and kind of process what's been going on, and she does an excellent job singing the song. But overall, like I said, that's not my favorite in the set, my least favorite, but it is still a good set. If you have this set and haven't watched it like I did, I had it for a year and didn't watch it. I highly recommend getting into it. If you are a fan or looking for something different, if you're a fan of Melvin Van Peebles or looking for some black cinema that's different than what you're used to seeing, go ahead and grab this set. It's, again, Melvin Van Peebles' Essential Films. Let me know if you guys like me doing this sort of stuff where I talk about a collection of movies. Yes, I'm a movie collector, but I really much rather prefer talking about the movies themselves than the cases that I bought. I will do that from time to time, though. But let me know in the comments. We can have a good conversation about it. Let me know if you've seen any of these movies, what you think of them. Let me know if you think you want to see any of these movies. And hopefully you'll get to do that if you do. That's all I have for you guys on this one. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.